we're on. How's it going, everybody?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good morning.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, whatever it is, wherever you are. Yeah.
Middle of the night. Wait, someone's joining us. What, 4 in the morning?
Yeah. The person that couldn't.
And substance.
Yeah. Yeah, the person that couldn't sleep. I forget who that was.
Good evening to you. Yeah. Reed, how's it going?
Hi, Reed. Welcome.
Going well for you. Thanks for joining us. As you can see, Ryan is indisposed this week. Maxine has agreed to join us.
Back.
Now with a background.
I have stuff. Believe it or not, I don't just live in a white void. I moved about 10 feet this way in the room, flipped it around, reversed it. I'm a real person.
My plan is just to invite everyone on stream and slowly force their backgrounds to be
to be cooler.
Yep.
And like the lighting seems to work better from this angle. Same light, nothing's changed. It looks like daytime here. But it is in fact 9 p.m. Nice. Almost 9:15.
Did you get a ring light?
I did. I did.
Which one did you get?
I got the newer.
Yeah.
I don't know the model number. I forget it off the top of my head.
Is it the 18 or the 20 inch?
I want to say 18. I'd show you, but it's on. It came with a nice carrying case.
It does have a nice case. I know. I have one as well.
Yeah, so I can take it, because I'm going places all the time now. I'm always constantly leaving my house for non-essential trips.
Yeah. And it has batteries.
I'm not.
Does it? Yeah, I don't know if you got. They have one that has. There's 2 battery things on either side of the back.
What?
So you can. It's mobile.
Oh my god, mine I think I have to plug in, but maybe it has batteries, but I just didn't attach them. Maybe I didn't set it up or something.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. I thought I was bound to the cord.
Upgraded mine to the Elgato ring light they just came out with, which is desk mountable, and it connects into connects into the Stream Deck Wi-Fi, so you can turn it on and off with a button from your desk.
Oh, cool. Oh, like from your computer. Oh, that's cool. I have like a remote, but the remote turns off after 5 seconds. You have to always turn it back on and then make it brighter.
I just have a button here.
Cool.
Hit the button on the desk, turn it on and off.
That's cool. Elgato sounds like elegant. It sounds like a cool light. But
it sounds Hispanic to me. It would be the cat.
Yes, I guess it does.
I don't know if that was their intention. Yes, thanks for joining us, everybody. We have a couple topics tonight. Our main one, I'll probably get into here in a little bit, is going to be working conditions. Those articles came out about crunch time. So we are going to talk about that a bit, and we'd love to get your opinions on it. And then, I guess, but first, Raised by Wolves finished up. So if you haven't seen it yet, we're probably going to talk spoilers, so please leave. If you don't want it to be spoiled.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about like the last episode. So put us on mute, maybe come back in like 5-10 minutes if you want.
Too long.
Well, we were just talking about how ridiculous it was. Like, it was good. I really like the show. I still like it. But it just, there's so many twists.
Rushback, no problem.
Yeah, the first one. So there's those creatures they were killing that they found on this world, and then they found out that.
Well, they didn't. That wasn't confirmed though.
Oh, that they're regressed humans or something.
I think they might be from like a civilization that was on this planet
before
that's regressing. But that was just a hypothesis. It wasn't.
That's true.
They never.
It was a hypothesis, but a very interesting hypothesis.
Right.
And they've been eating these creatures. One of them that they caught was pregnant. They ate it anyway. So that's one thing. What's another twist? What's another interesting thing that happened in the last like episode or two?
Well, she gets pregnant.
Right.
A robot gets pregnant somehow.
Right. After this very elaborate
she
scene.
She's actually pregnant. But she may not be. We find out it's like, well, she births this, I don't know, it's basically a face like her snake, essentially. It's just a giant version of it.
It's like an eel snake, like a alien eel snake.
It reminded me of the Prometheus snake that they find in the tunnels that like jumps into the guy's suit. It looks exactly like that. I was hoping
that was probably the
imagination on it.
Yeah. Honestly. That was probably the concept. They're like, something like this.
Yeah, just take that and make it bigger.
Yeah.
So clearly she wasn't impregnated, but somehow this got in her.
That's what I don't get. Unless it was a product that she created, like something in her, like hardware or something, or programming, like created this. But she was siphoning blood off of other creatures and humans. First the robot, she was siphoning like the white blood.
Make any sense for us to even talk about it. Rushback, we're talking about right now we're talking about the ending of Raised by Wolves because it was just weird, but our main topic is going to be studio, like working in studios and overtime and crunch time and kind of treatment of workers and all that. We'd love to hear everybody's thoughts or questions on that as we get into that in a bit.
And when you're looking for a job, how to research that stuff so before you get there what the quality of life and work-life balance is like at certain studios. But yeah, Raised by Wolves, that was such an interesting, there's just so much going on in the last episode.
Well, even like listening to us talk about it, it's like, and then
makes no sense.
And then the dad robot comes back to normal, and then he saves her, but then they go into the tunnel to kill the snake. So they go to the
He's like my favorite character.
Earth, but then they fly through the core of the earth and back out the other side to the tropical zone, and then the snake's still alive. Like, what's happening?
The snake busts through.
And then you find out the atheist group had a ship.
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah.
Like this huge ship.
Yeah. They're setting things up for the second season. They're keeping things ambiguous. Rushback, you haven't watched it yet. We did give a spoiler alert about 5 minutes ago. Sorry.
I don't know if this really ruins it for anyone because it just does. It's so like, what is happening?
Yeah, it makes no sense. I do love the dad robot character.
I do like him.
I feel he plays that character so well. I think all of the acting actually is pretty good.
No, the acting, phenomenal.
Like imagine reading a script about all this stuff that's happened in the last few episodes. So you're going to be nursing your baby, but instead of a baby that comes out of you, it's going to be a snake. But you're also a robot, so you're not really
right.
You're not feeding it.
You don't really like care, but then you do because you're programmed to care. And then I will say I do like the I can't remember anybody's name. The blonde kid. I like him pretty well. Like Campion is super annoying.
Campion, yeah.
Man, it drives me crazy.
He's such an annoying kid, and he's like eating the fungus because he doesn't want to eat the good stuff, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna eat it. Like, it's alive.
But I feel like it was like, what was that 3 or 4 years ago when there was a big thing going around about how obnoxious vegetarians were being.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's what it's playing off.
Absolutely. So it's funny how it can still be annoying even when they're born in a completely different place and don't have all of the influence from the media and people.
And nothing against vegetarianism for those that are out there, but there was a.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely don't.
There was like jokes a while ago about that, about how people were being very particular.
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, it came across that way. And then the mother-father relationship, I felt like that felt like somebody on the writers' team's parents got divorced.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see how both of them, not just the mother, both of them had these kind of emotions that evolved.
Yeah.
Like they both kind of realized things. Like when she told him that she was pregnant, which again, this is a robot that got pregnant.
And then he's jealous of it.
Yeah, and then he was jealous. He was like, I can't live with you here because I'm just so like confused about this situation. I can't help feeling bad about it, you know? And she's like, oh, but it was magical. I had such a great time. And he's like, of course you did. She basically had VR sex. But that was an interesting scene. That was crazy. They're like floating in air, her and her creator, like very metaphorical,
you and
but
all
also
of us rush back.
Yeah. Now you should watch the show.
The article doesn't post, but if you just let everybody know what to search for, I think we have links blocked on Twitch if you're on there.
Oh, Raised by Wolves or?
No, Big Glob of Goo just said, I think he has an article that the showrunner was explaining some stuff.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking to me. Yeah. I was like, what link? What link am I sharing?
Well, for me, I was like, I don't know. I'm less excited about season 2, but that might just be me. I'm sure a lot of people were like, oh, this is so interesting about what's going to happen. But I was like, eh. And then
it was a lot.
I know. And then I feel like anytime you have like the space stuff or these factions, and then you have kind of this hero guy, which Thimmel, I can't remember his first name. You know, you have all these soldiers, right? And you have one person that's just taking them all out constantly. It's like, did none of you train? There's only one person on this planet that can fire their weapon properly. Like, to me, that gets like, really? Come on.
Yeah. But yeah, they're definitely just setting things up to be very ambiguous, and like 5 different storylines still going for season 2. It reminds me a little bit of like Westworld, when you're like, oh my God, it's going to happen. Raised
by Wolves, explained by the showrunner. WTF was that? Yeah, I know. That's how I felt.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Westworld.
But you want them to like set it up so you're like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens. But it was almost like too, at least for me, it was almost too weird. I'm just like, eh.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't say weird, but like, I don't know. I don't care.
They introduced too many things.
I don't actually care what happens to them now.
Yeah. I would have liked a little more of a resolution on like at least one of the storylines.
Yeah.
But I feel like every group of people.
More.
Yeah.
Like it was almost too many mysteries. It almost ended with too many mysteries. Maybe that's a better way to explain it. Like if they had told me a little bit more about the planet so I could be interested in what was happening there, or a little more about this so I could be interested in what's going to happen with the next season. But it just leaves you with like, I have no idea what's going on, whatever. You know?
Yeah. That it was like just what? And then this is happening.
Other TV shows every day coming out now. So.
Yeah. That was a lot. But I think like you look at something like Umbrella Academy, for example, and that's another show that like bombards you with crazy stuff all the time, every episode. But that one, like, I feel like that does leave me wanting more. There's so much stuff happening. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think season 2 especially was so good. I loved it. Season 1 was good. There's like some characters I was like, who the heck is this?
Yeah.
Like there's this one guy that they just made him look really buff, and he kind of has like a body like a gorilla, but not like, he's still kind of human. And like they obviously did a lot of it with like prosthetics and CG and stuff to like basically make everything from his head down like huge, this big guy. And I like just didn't get his character in the first season, but even the second season he's not great. But he's like Bigfoot. Yeah, he is like Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's a shame because I first saw that actor in Black Sails, and I really liked him on that.
I don't think I've seen that.
There's
so much stuff to watch nowadays.
Good show. I really
gotta check it out. Yeah, but yeah, that's a show where I feel like they bombard you with so much crazy stuff, yet you're still like, okay, I want to see what happens next because you're more invested in the characters.
Yeah,
like whereas
I think
this show
was like that for me too, because I liked the characters too, and then when they revealed something, you're like, what? Oh, you know. Whereas this, they revealed something like, seriously, that.
Like now. The Cult. Oh my god, The Cult was so good in Umbrella Academy. I won't give it away. We said spoiler alert for Raised by Wolves, but maybe another week we'll talk about Umbrella Academy. Well, no, I want you to watch it, Jeremy. I think it's so funny. What else have we been watching lately? I watched a movie this weekend. It just came out on Netflix. Oh my god, it was the best movie of the year, I think. It's called QB Halloween.
Oh no, I refuse to watch that.
It's Adam Sandler's new movie. Here we go. We have a real question. I thought it was great. So that's my opinion.
I can't do his movies. It's too much.
It was so dumb, but really, really, really funny. Like it was like one of his old movies. Like watching like Happy Gilmore or something like that. It was just that whole era, everything. Really, really funny. Lots of good cameos. Drawn Skull has a real quick question for you, Jeremy.
Which, I mean, any of these would be great. You're talking about the Ursa Mini? Oh, that's the recorder. Are you talking about this one, Drawn Skull? I mean, when we were last week, you were mentioning you were talking about student films and stuff like that. This would definitely be overkill for a student film, and mainly because the 12K at 80 megapixels, while really cool, is going to just take tons of memory cards and hard drives. And honestly, it's like, even if you can afford all of this equipment, I don't know why you'd want to fool with it. See if what they have with the file sizes on these are.
Yeah, a little bit overkill.
Yeah, honestly, I would stick with the Pocket Cinema 6K cam will be more than enough. This is like 80 megapixel. I don't know if anybody knows the file size. But I mean, you can see even going down here, they've got, they're using the decks and stuff to color correct on the thing. And yeah, here we go. Yeah, so it records 900 megabytes a second. So if you think about that, that means you're filling up an entire 1 terabyte hard drive every 10 seconds. So just think about that.
That's a lot. that's a little bit much.
Yeah, so you're using 6 terabytes a minute just for footage on this. So it's not that you couldn't do it. It's just an incredible amount of data to have to try to deal with, and what you're gonna get out of it is I don't know, like you just don't need that, honestly, and for a long time.
Most viewers and consumers wouldn't.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be able to
either notice the difference or have a device to play it on to notice the difference.
So you're going to have to push it back out at probably a 4K max. So yeah, the only reason to even have something that high is if you're wanting to like zoom in on particular parts of the film or something. You know, you want to just be able to zoom into it if you're over scanning quite a bit. So yeah, a pocket would be perfectly fine for a feature film. I mean, this is more for like really high-end commercial stuff, and I mean, you just probably don't need a $10,000 camera yet. And then the lenses, you're gonna have to pay in addition to that, and then you have to, it compounds. You have to get super expensive hard drives, then you have to get really nice stands for everything. You have to get a faster cable, really thick cables to go through it, and you have to get tons of those cards because it's just grabbing data so fast. And you got to get the expensive chargers and the big monitors, and then you'd have to have this kind of data throughput is when you would need that like $40,000 computer we priced out last time. Like these are ones that they color correct in like theater screening rooms and stuff that are $1 million to put together. So if you're just editing this at home on a normal, even $5,000 machine, this would just bring it to its knees. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah. So if you're thinking about 6 terabytes a minute, and then can't even do it. Too tired to do all this math.
I'm not even trying.
So let's say it's a 2-hour movie.
Yes, essentially way over the top, Rushback. You're right.
720 terabytes just to hold the raw footage. So, yeah, I just wouldn't go with it. I mean, you're talking about needing like rack servers and stuff to even store all of it. So. Yeah, in a nutshell, it's just be overkill. Definitely
yeah, just to have to like down res everything as well. Like, you know what I mean? Just to use
transferring it. It just takes hours and hours. And the whole point of, especially when you're in school, the whole point is to learn your craft and to learn how to shoot things properly and learn how to light things properly and to learn how to tell good stories. Like, that's the important thing. Having a 12K image that's not. You could learn everything you needed to know with a cell phone nowadays, honestly.
Very true. Yeah. Unless you're someone that wants to eventually learn or be on the like engineering team at like a big company, like someone who's troubleshooting how to deal with big file sizes in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Like a entry-level DP job, and you need to know all your camera gear inside and out or something. I know John School's looking to get into visual effects and like remaking, so
I remember.
I definitely think that would be too much to do.
Yeah, it's gonna be too much of a headache for a product that isn't worth it, or people won't really notice. You'll just be that person saying like, well, I shot it like this.
Right. Even if you have the money, it's just the hassle. Because like, unless you're going to hire like an IT team to come in and put together a server room for you to handle this, like you would still have to do that. So
yeah.
It's just a pain.
So Rushback, I'm guessing your name is just Max. Funny story. I was supposed to be a boy. Like when my mom was pregnant, the doctor said, "Oh, you're gonna have a boy." And so my parents were like, "Cool. We have a daughter, now we have a son. Great. Let's name him after my grandpa."
A doctor.
Yeah. My mom calls him the butcher now. She's like, "He was terrible. He was a butcher." It's like, what did he butcher? I guess my gender. But yeah, so they're gonna name me Maximilian after my grandpa. And then I came in a girl, and they're like, what do we call her? And Maxine was the closest thing they could find. So that's my story.
That's good. Thinking on their feet.
Yeah, kind of. Thank God it wasn't, because there is a name out there like Maximiliana, and that's a little too much.
It's tough to say.
Not, yeah. Maxine's all right. You also got the name of your grandfather. Isn't that nice? Look at this small world. We're all here online. I don't know where you're from, but we have that connection. It's a small world out there.
Yeah.
I think we're done with Raised by Wolves.
I know. I don't know what's happening.
And it also seems like a lot of people here haven't watched it, so we won't, we'll spare you the details, everyone.
They may not know.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they might play it or watch it, I mean. The plays where it's 3:30.
Oh, the place.
The place. Oh, sorry. The place where it's 3:30.
Where is it 3:30 now? I'd be in Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
Be 6 hours?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. Is that UK?
That could be. I thought there were 5.
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're 5 hours. Unless it has to do with our daylight savings time. Maybe it goes to 6. I don't know.
Yeah,
UK is 5. Thank you.
So they're a little past UK.
I do like that Max is making us guess.
I know.
The place. It could be a number of countries within that line, but
we'll see. We're almost done with the daylight savings time stuff. I guess we have a couple more weeks, and then US goes, and then.
How do you feel about that? The time change.
I like when it changes. I just wish they would stick with it. I don't actually like the summer
just pick one
change. Yeah.
Oh, you don't like summer.
Yeah.
So you like it when it's brighter earlier and darker earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. They're talking about switching it here. Like there's people are signing petitions to keep it so it doesn't change back. But a lot of the governments are like, well, if Quebec and New York don't follow suit, and Atlanta, like especially these big, production sort of hubs, not even film related, but just in general. It's going to be too difficult when people who are used to being on the same time zone aren't anymore. So,
well, I definitely think I know daylight saving, it does make no sense. I do think US and Canada ideally would stay on the same, so they should either both get rid of it.
Yeah.
Or both keep, because that would be super confusing if you're like in New York and we're suddenly on a different time zone than Toronto.
Yeah, that would be so annoying. But at the same time, I don't know if there's going to be any big changes happening anytime soon on your end. So the government's a little bit busy right now.
It goes in a month.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, first order of business for whoever is in power.
Yeah.
Daylight savings time.
The most important thing we have going on in the US right now.
Yeah. When the clocks change.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I like it because I get up earlier. That's about it. And you know what? When I worked in an office, it did suck to finish work and it already be dark out. That was really depressing. But now that I work from home, it doesn't really make a difference. I got this light in here.
I know.
It's daylight right now.
All the time.
All the time. So, no. It's not the worst. It's just that one day where you're like sleepy.
This year actually went better for us because we used to have the school used to be based off Melbourne time. It was our kind of global clock that we went with. So if you were in the US and you had students in Melbourne, it would switch an hour, and then a month later it switched another hour the other way.
Oh my god.
So that your classes were all of a sudden 2 hours earlier or later. So every year it was just this huge mess. So this year we've switched it to UTC. At least everybody only has an hour change. And we have those great Slack tools that translate the time for you. Hopefully it was a little less confusing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love using that tool in Slack just to see where what time it is for any user that I'm talking to. Like, where are you? Oh, cool. Oh, it's midnight for you? Okay.
Well, welcome, Bree. I think it's like mid-afternoon there, or around noon.
Yeah, that's the one time that I have on my saved to my clock here. Yeah, 12:41 p.m. Enjoy your lunch, Reed.
3:30 in France or Germany, whatever it is. 12:41. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so guess we can get into it. Our main story today. This article came out. Maxine, have you read through it? Did you want to introduce this?
It was something I was reading earlier today that I found kind of interesting. So it's about CD Projekt Red. So they're currently working on Cyberpunk 2077. I can't speak today. Really hot game that's going to come out. A lot of people are excited about it. I know one of our students did that rookies texturing challenge, and he was like inspired by Cyberpunk 2077 in his design. Very cool. And they're talking about crunch. So I believe they've already delayed the game at least once. And now they either had the choice of delaying further into 2021 or just getting it done by the original date, which I believe is in November. And the company decided to continue doing a really heavy crunch, even though apparently they said that they wouldn't, and it was against their new policy that they had told all of the employees. They didn't really ask anyone. They just said, like, this is what we're doing. Everyone has to do mandatory 6-day weeks. But then this reporter, so that sucks, first and foremost. However, the reporter also talked to quite a few of the developers who work there. And even though the company didn't ask them, this reporter did. And they were like, yeah, actually, we would prefer to do the crunch and release the game sooner rather than take it easy and then release it next year. So a bunch of different ideas here. I think, yes, there are problems in the industry, both film, games, and many other industries out there, but especially the ones that we love here, the entertainment industry. There's a lot of problems with this type of work, with these crunch times, especially when they get like never ending crunch, when it's not just a few weeks, all of a sudden that turns into months. But then there's the other side of like these developers that apparently they would prefer to just do it. So yeah, it's interesting. I think there's two sides of the story here. And I think a lot of people are like quick to say one or the other, like, oh no, that's terrible. Companies shouldn't do this, which, I generally agree with. But then at the same time, if the people working it don't mind, or if they're in a personal situation, financial situation, whatever, that this works to their favor, especially during COVID. I worked with a lot of artists a few months ago who actually enjoyed working more because they're like, well, I don't have anything else to do right now. So, is this a good time to have a crunch, or are people already under so much stress because of COVID that putting them under more stress from work is a bad thing? Have you had an experience like this, Jeremy? Have you worked at a place?
Yeah.
Have you been through a crunch?
I have. I've done.
I think most people have. Yeah.
A couple of them. To frame this one though, in Poland, their worker protection laws do protect overtime for crunch. So to be clear, they are getting paid for this time. Not always. Yeah,
that's an important part.
Yes, it's not always the case in the U.S. And they were only crunching to 6 days a week, which at least for in the film industry was kind of like, yeah, we're on 6s now. Is what what they would say. And you were waiting for that to be like, all right, we're on 7s now.
Yeah.
So as far as crunches go, 6 days a week is not really bad. At Rhythm, we did, so they would do 5/8. We did 8 hours was a normal day. I think at like Disney, I think a 9-hour day is standard, but for us, it's just an 8-hour day plus lunch. So for our crunch, they would slowly ramp it up. So you would go to 10-hour days first. And then once 10-hour days weren't hitting it, then you went to 6 days a week. And then when you did 5 10s and then 1 8. And then once that wasn't hitting it, then you'd go to 5 12s.
Yeah.
And a 10. And this is because this is in California. And for those that don't know, how the California laws work is overtime is paid per day for daily overtime. And then there's also weekly laws that go into effect. So that's why they kind of do this weird ramp up where you pay a little more, where they go like just under the line. And then there's like sneaky stuff you can do, like in California for breaks. You have to have lunch you have to bring in food if you have workers working more than 6 hours at a stretch. So what they would do is you would move lunch an hour later in the day as well, so that people would have lunch. But then between lunch and the 10-hour day, it was only 6 hours, so they didn't have to pay for dinner.
Yeah.
So so this really depends on where you are and how this works out. But I guess the basics of it, at least what they're saying in the article, is it worth working that much harder and disrupting people's lives to get the product out? And that's really what's at the core of it, I think.
Yeah, I worked at some places. I forgot about the LA laws. Like, companies could be really sneaky sometimes, and this is everything. Like, big glob of goo. It's not much different than working OT in other industries, I think.
Except for some places you don't get paid overtime. Is the issue, and that's
or certain roles too.
Roles. That's usually when you don't. That's usually when you hear about it. So for VFX, for us, like once you get up to the supervisor level, usually those are salaried positions and no longer are eligible for overtime.
Yeah.
So we had a CG soup on one of our shows. He worked 100-hour weeks for 3 months straight, he said.
Crazy.
And a lot of times the VFX supervisors do that. Sure. So
yeah, that's, and same with some management roles. I know of some places I've worked where, if you're a junior, mid, or senior artist, you get paid overtime, but the second you move into the lead category, you don't get paid overtime because you're considered like part of the management team.
Right.
So a lot of people would end up finding out like, oh my God, I got promoted to lead and I was really excited. And then I realized that I'm making less than I would be if I was a senior during crunch time specifically.
Right.
So it's something to keep in mind, when you're working, like always read your contracts, always look into what you're getting yourself into so you fully understand the situation, and don't be afraid to ask questions. When you have those meetings with HR or a talent manager or a recruiter, ask them, okay, well, what if we go into crunch time? What does that mean for my position? It's always good to be informed about what you're getting yourself into before you start, so it's not a surprise, like a few months in and you find yourself working under certain conditions that might not work for your day-to-day life.
And but to argue the other side, I have some friends that love it.
Yeah,
they make a ton of money during crunch time. If you're somewhere that's getting paid, getting paid overtime, especially if you're getting into that kind of extreme overtime, which is like 12 hours a day, and then for at least for California, once you get into that 7 days a week, you're getting paid double during that time. And then occasionally they would, if you work through a holiday, you get triple time. So if there's a federal holiday and you're working overtime already, it ends up being triple time. So people made quite a lot of money during this. So people that were single, people that were trying to save up for a house, if they had something they were going after or anything. A lot of those people, it was great.
Yeah.
So just,
I knew some people I knew people that like paid off their first car, got a new car. I worked with a lot of people who they had major debt. Like some people had a lot of school debt from some universities that they went to, especially in the States. I think school is much more expensive than some other countries. At least here in Canada. Like some people that took, that went to like VFX schools. they're in massive amounts of debt, and so every time they would offer overtime, those people would be like, yes, me, I'll take it, I'll take anything. So yeah, it really depends. I think for some people it's good if you can take advantage of it, if you understand what you're putting yourself into, and you can, manage the rest of your life to work around that. And as long as you do still get some breaks, like, it does suck when you're doing a crunch and then all of a sudden, before you're barely even done, someone says, hey, you're going to work on this show now. And then you go into another one before ever having a break. Like, that's when it's good to talk to your manager, say, hey, maybe I could have a couple of days off. I just finished this big thing. Let me know if that's possible, or something like that. And you can try to negotiate. Most people are.
Well, that's very film centric.
Yes.
For games, usually there's quite a lot of time off.
That's nice.
So if you're somewhere where you're going to get laid off, then you definitely want to save the money up. But some of the bigger studios, like blanking on their name right now, Naughty Dog. So I don't know recently, but as of a few years ago, they were kind of known for having terrible crunch time as well. And at the time, again, I don't know right now, they weren't getting paid overtime for it, but they did get comp time for it. So they would get crunched like crazy, but then you got like 2 months off basically after the
That's awesome.
project would deliver.
Yeah, having like bank time is great. Like that, and that's another good thing to ask, when you do get a job, like, oh, there is no overtime. Okay, well, do I get bank time if this kind of situation arises? Some places are becoming a little more lenient where, they'll ask for volunteers versus making everyone do it. But again, that depends on the size of the company. If the company is too small and they have certain people doing certain things, it's not something you could hand off or have someone else do for you. So yeah, it's interesting though, because it's such a hot topic. I think I've heard of a lot of companies being blasted for this, which I think is fair. There should be some sort of compensation for it and not just a bunch of unpaid time.
Banked time. So I guess it's not really the proper term for it, but essentially if you're not getting paid overtime, you can get compensated in days off. So instead of getting paid extra, you would get like a couple hours off after that. So what'll happen is usually it's here in the States we call it PTO, so it'd be paid time off. So what happens is that just starts to accrue at a higher rate. Time in lieu is a good way to say it. Yeah, basically you're getting paid in time instead of money.
Yeah. And it's nice when companies have a system to actually keep track of that. Yeah. But you always have to be careful of the ones that say, oh, yeah, we'll give you the time off. Don't worry about it. Just log 8 hours for today. Always keep track of your time. If you are worried that the system in which the company you're working for isn't keeping track of your time accurately, like if they tell you to just log 8 hours across the board, but you actually work 10, be wary of that. Keep track on your own. Create a spreadsheet, use something on your phone, even like a notes app, just to write every day the time you came in, the time you came out, so you can start to keep track of your own hours yourself. I don't know how common that is for companies to not keep track of time very well, but I have seen it happen.
Yeah, it's usually the
so be careful.
Trying to pull something on you.
Yeah, and like if you don't have proof of all those extra hours you worked to get that time in lieu, then you might not get it. So gotta be careful.
Is it common that studios can kick you out anytime they want? That very much depends on where you work in the world. In the US, yes, they can kick you out anytime they want, but they do have to pay accrued time off, and they do have to pay overtime out. So if you have, as we're talking about, if you have this paid time off accrued, if they kick you out, they actually have to pay you the cash value of that. They can't just kick you out and you lose it.
Yeah.
So there are a few things like that. And then in other countries, I don't actually know the laws in Canada specifically, but like in the UK, it's very difficult to get rid of a worker. So there's a lot more protections in place to keep that from happening. But
I think it's similar here, but it depends on the type of contract you have. So a lot of companies now are hiring people on contract instead of as full-time employees.
Yeah.
So they will hire you for 6 months only or 1 year at a time. And if they don't have more work for you to do, or if you're deemed like not valuable enough to keep for whatever reason, then you will be gone after that 1 year period. So a lot of very big companies are known for doing that. And it revolves around the projects that they have coming in. A lot of times it has nothing to do with your skill unless you're like very, very highly skilled, and they'll keep a skeleton staff of senior talent and then hire back juniors as they need to. But yeah, it really does depend. Once you have a full-time sort of contract where you are a full-time employee, then you're a lot safer. But yeah, people could still be let go, but they have to give a reason. So even if you're halfway through your contract, they can't really let you go unless you haven't been performing. There needs to be concrete proof. There has to be written proof. It's actually very difficult to get rid of someone just because someone said, oh, I don't really like her. You know, you have to have like multiple paper trails, like multiple meetings with HR, like warnings have to be given. It's pretty hard. Like you have to be exceptionally bad to just be kicked out. Or it's COVID and a lot of people got laid off. That also happened. So that was a different scenario.
But yeah, layoffs fall under a different law, so it's not.
Yeah.
At least in the US, it'd be considered wrongful termination if you do that. A lot of states here, though, have employment at will, which means it doesn't really matter. They can actually get rid of you for any reason that is not protected. So you can sue them, which is why a lot of companies don't do that, just because they don't want to have to fool with that hassle. But I would say the protections in the US are probably some of the worst in the world. Like you can just get rid of someone for really no reason at all.
Scary.
There's not much recourse at all. Yeah.
Sounds like the opposite of where Max is from. In Switzerland, you get 3 months notice.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's nice because it's helpful for if you're in an industry that can support that kind of ramp off time for workers. If the workers trust the companies, if there's a basic amount of trust, I mean, that's great. Like you have that much time to find something else. They have enough time to transfer the data and the knowledge out that they would need. But yeah, it doesn't work that way here, at least. Yeah,
here it's like 2 weeks, but I think it really depends on someone, like the reason why you're leaving. Like I think if you're leaving because like you want to go and you found a new job and you have to give a certain amount of notice, then you're most likely going to work pretty well for those last few weeks, or you should, so that you don't burn any bridges and you can keep those people in your network and, not piss them off right before leaving. But then there's the flip side. Like, what if you get fired or you're being let go? But imagine having 3 months. It's like, like they know they don't like you. But then you're still stuck there for 3 months. Then like, how's your productivity level going to be if you're just checked out for those last 3 months? Interesting.
It would tank.
A lot of companies would just like pay you out, be like, just leave. Here's 3 months pay.
Well, that's what most of the companies do here for when they get rid of somebody, because you'll give notice. So like, here's your 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
Security will escort you out with your check for 2 weeks of pay.
Yeah. See you later.
Please don't come back to the building.
Yeah. Give us your key card. Thank you. Yeah, it is interesting though how different it is all over the world and how these different labor laws can affect, your contract and how much you get paid and overtime, especially during these crunch periods. I remember once a place I worked for, I'm not naming any of the places that I'm telling these stories about, but one of the places I worked for, we had like that kind of 6 day a week crunch, 6 or 7, like, and my department, we did it nice because we would take turns. We would have we set up these like shifts. So we knew that, okay, because you had to work on a Sunday, you're going to have like a Tuesday or a Wednesday off in the middle of the week. And then, we would kind of alternate days between the artists and the people in the department. And so at least we could plan our lives around working those crazy hours. But one thing that really I was not happy about was we had to work during a stat holiday. So during a public holiday, which normally would be getting paid double time if you worked on that actual holiday day. So let's say Thanksgiving and the Monday is the holiday. That's the day that you have off. That day would be paid. You're paid for 8 hours. But they made us work the Saturday and the Sunday, but they told us to not come in on the Monday because that would have been you would have been paid, like double time for working that, or triple if you've accrued enough OT already for the week. So that was kind of annoying because our weekend was ruined already because we had to come in and work, but we couldn't even get the benefit of working on that holiday day and getting paid like a lot more. So it's worth it at least to be working on a holiday. That was a not a great move, like that's a way to get everyone a little bit upset about working there.
Yeah, well, that happens in VFX a lot because they don't charge the client for that. Because I worked in commercial stuff for a little while, trailers, and the clients got charged directly for all the time we were working hourly. So if they wanted us to come in on a holiday to work to get something out, they actually charged them like a holiday overage fee just to even open the building. And it was like astronomical because the owner never wanted to come in on holidays and stuff. So it was like just this crazy fee. So they're like, well, if you want to come in, all right, if you're going to pay, this many $10,000s of dollars for us to unlock the door, then that's on you.
And be available. Yeah.
But
I have seen like projects ask clients for more, but it's usually near the end of a project. And if they're asking for something that wasn't originally agreed upon, whether it's like a different scope of work, a new creative vision, or all of a sudden they decided, so this happens a lot in Canada where clients from the States don't realize that it's a Canadian holiday.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, oh, well, what do you mean you can't deliver it on Monday? We're like, well, we're off on Monday, so we'll give it to you Tuesday. And then they're like freaking out at the last minute, like, but no, I need it Monday. And I have seen it happen where we have charged a rush fee. Like, well, if you want us to do it, we need to like find enough volunteer artists to come in because it's such short notice that we can't just tell everyone to stay. And so I have seen it happen where we've gotten some extra money, but usually the budgets are all approved way before this kind of stuff happens, and there isn't always an opportunity. We did
one. I won't say what it was on, but
this is the like do not tell series of our stream.
They had the whole. It was like I think it was for a trailer release, so they made some big change, and the whole studio had to work 24 hours straight.
Oh my god!
To get it out. This is like a couple hundred people. They paid. I think they paid $1 million. To have the company do that for coverage, just for a trailer.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's crazy. It's so funny how like a lot of these productions, like they're like, we have no money, and then like when something happens, they're like, okay, here you go. Yeah. Here's $1 million.
Fine.
Yeah. Or like when there's some kind of creative vision
This
that
is not a movie
they have
worth
to
spending an
do.
extra million on.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, how much do you really care about this new idea?
Right.
So how do you all feel? Who's here in the stream today? How do you guys feel about this article and about
But getting back to that
working
main point,
overtime?
right? Is like, because I guess there's the artist side of do you feel like working overtime, but then it's like this is I feel like it's making more of a moral argument. Like, should we ask people to work overtime and disrupt their lives just so we don't have to delay a product? So on the other end, if you're coming from like the producer, the owner end, they have tons of money riding on this, right? So delays mean a lot more money for them. And if you're thinking about, because they've advertised the date it's coming out, so now you have to advertise a whole new thing and make a whole new campaign and then distract from everybody that's getting mad.
Yeah, recreate like all the marketing and everything.
And it's very different right now because of COVID. But usually for film, like they don't miss a film release, so like that's getting done. And they'll squeeze it just because it's so expensive to move it. And then usually the film releases are extremely timed with like all the other movies that are getting released around it and what's happening and the time of year that it's coming out. So to just kind of arbitrarily move it is something they definitely don't do. For games though, it's a little different. Like in the end of the article, he's like, well, why don't they just release it in January when there's not as much stuff coming out? And it's not like people aren't gonna buy this game.
Yeah. I was thinking about this one in particular, like Cyberpunk 2077, and it's like, okay, so they're trying to make the Christmas rush, but then what about all of the, Christmas money and gift certificates and all this stuff people are going to get that they could use in January, February to then buy this. But if they get it for Christmas, then, I'm sure they're going to make just as much money either way.
Right.
Probably it's like marginal how much more or less they would make, but it's interesting. So we have a couple of responses here. So JD Smith, he's saying I'll work overtime, I said he, I don't know if you're a he. They said I'll work overtime. I got them loans you were talking about. Yeah, a lot of people are in the same boat as you. A lot of people have loans, or they just want to save up for something else. They want to buy a house, they want to buy a car, whatever it is in their life that they're working towards. Like that's the whole point of work, to have a life and live as a human being. So whatever you want to spend that money on, I think that's fair. So there's a lot of people that think that way. Big glob of goo. Tell that to IT people who work night shifts of all night to fix issues. So true. Servers are down, network is down. Yeah, if those aren't working, no one is. That's so true. And I've seen it happen. Like those are truly the glue that holds these companies together, are the IT teams, the engineering teams, the software development teams that work in the background, people that work on the pipeline, vendor wranglers. Oh my God.
All night long and watch progress bars.
But it's the backbone of so many of these companies is the people that work behind the scenes that don't have those, glamorous kind of cool jobs. They matter the most, because without those people, you wouldn't be able to create the products at all, because all of the artists wouldn't be able to function. So yeah, good for you. I think, sometimes OT is necessary, especially in those situations where it's an accident or an unexpected event, like the server goes down, the network goes down, something with the building happens.
I think at least for me, the difference with the IT stuff is typically you're always paid overtime. You're getting paid for it. Plus that's a known entity going into it.
Right.
Like if you're going to work in IT, I mean, by the time you get to that position, I mean, you know well enough, like stuff breaks in the middle of the night. And I don't know, like I'm more well versed with like healthcare stuff just because my family, but a lot of times night workers get paid differentials. So like the night shift people, you just get paid more. So people that have those loans that they want to, usually that's I don't know if you're forced to, but it's more of a choice. Like usually you can aim to find those overnight positions to make more money. Like overnight nurses, for instance, get paid extra for working the night shift just because it's harder on you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tough. I think my mom worked at Canada Post, which is like the Canadian version of the USPS. And yeah, she worked nights, and there was like a hotline you could call to work OT. It was like offered randomly, and you would have to like call the hotline to get it. And then she would every day she would check it, be like, is there overtime? Is there overtime? Yes. Okay, I'll take it. And she would always do it like whenever it was offered. It was crazy. And she worked nights. I remember when I was in high school, my mom worked from like
well, some people
3 or 4 o'clock until like 2 a.m. or something.
Because it can be really quiet. Because you do have those emergencies and stuff, of course. But if you don't have an emergency, just kind of hang out all evening and quiet space, chill, listen to music, and.
Well, I'm just gonna let my dog out. 1 sec.
Sure.
Literally just
Respect, you're saying as long as you don't get compensated personally, you don't mind forcing crunch. Yeah. So I think because it's becoming, there's a lot more awareness about it now. It's less and less that people aren't getting compensated for it.
Yeah.
It still happens, but one, you should definitely that's something you should certainly be able to figure out when you start the job, so you'll know if that's going to happen. And if they're like, well, we don't really do crunch here, like really check into that.
Yeah.
Because that's unusual.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Read makes you nervous. Yeah, so well, that's why we're here, is so you don't get taken advantage of. Honestly, like that's why we're doing talks like this.
Yeah.
Because this used to not be something that was talked about very much, and the passion to create was taken advantage of to get people to work more for nothing. But because people are talking about it more and more, you just got to draw those lines for yourself and check into the companies that you're applying to make sure that is something that they compensate for. And that doesn't mean it's always going to be pleasant. I mean, working 6-hour weeks for, I don't know, 6-day weeks, for a month or two is tiring, but it's not the end of the world, especially if you're working like a normal type of schedule. But if you start getting into the 10 and 12 hour especially, and you're doing that for months like that, really starts to grind on you. And the weird thing is, especially if you're by yourself, you just don't have time to do like laundry.
Basic human necessities.
Basic stuff starts going out the window.
Cooking, like any kind of like dinner, breakfast, you just can't do anymore. It's like physically impossible, especially if you work somewhere that is further away from home. If you have a longer commute, it's just hard to get your life in order. And then if you do have a day off, you don't do anything on that day off because you're just exhausted and you just want to sleep and do nothing and zone out. But yeah, it does suck when it's forced, like when you don't have a choice.
I find for those like 12-hour shifts, especially if they drag on too long, people's health deteriorates. That's the main thing to look out for, because the easiest thing to drop is exercising, because usually that's like an hour out of your day, and that's 1 hour you can get back where you can make yourself breakfast, or you need that for commute time now or something like that. So not only are you sitting 12 hours a day now, 6 days a week, you're also not exercising at all. So usually what I notice is a lot of people, that's when like the back issues creep up. A lot of people gain weight during that time, things like that, especially if you work at a place that brings in food, because they're not bringing in like nice salads and vegetables for you every day. They're bringing in like pizza and fried food and hamburgers, stuff like that. So that, while it may sound fun for like a couple days, when you've had pizza for like 3 months straight, you don't want it anymore.
The food situation is like serious. Like it's especially for big companies, you know, nobody's going to be happy no matter what you get.
Yeah,
I've had to like order food for people or like help, you know, set it up or something. And it's so hard because there are the people that are like, salads, this is lame,
right.
you know, and they're like so happy to get Church's chicken again. And there's other people that are like, oh my God, I'm actually just going to go across the street and buy something else. Or people would bring food from home if they're actually awesome and prepared and like good with organizing their lives, because they knew that whatever they're going to get there isn't something that's going to make them feel fueled and energized. It's going to just make them crash, you know, after an hour or two. And then you still have to work for another 4 or 5 hours after a big heavy meal. That sucks.
Yep. So
many people use standing desks.
Yeah, it depends where you work. We had, at least when I was at Rhythm, we didn't have the sit stand desks. You had to pick which one you wanted. So they were locked into place. So they would move it up into a standing position, and then you could get a chair that was higher. So if you wanted to sit down, you could sit in the higher chair, or you had a sit level desk, but it didn't go back and forth. But some of the other places do have sit stand. I don't know, Mr. X, what they had there. But.
They had like a program where you could essentially like put a deposit in for one. It was like $300. Like it wasn't cheap. And then they would take care of buying it and installing it for you. And then when you leave, you could like sell your standing desk to another artist and then get your $300 back.
Oh,
so there'd always, it was kind of weird. Yeah. I don't know who kept track of it all, to be honest, because it sounded like a nightmare. But like every once in a while when someone, you know, got a new job or whatever it was, someone was leaving, you'd get the like company email being someone like, hey, I got a standing desk, who wants to buy it or whatever.
Right.
It was interesting. And then there's also the people who, if you have a doctor's note or if you have like a valid reason from a doctor that you need this for your back or whatever, you know, health issue you have, then a lot of companies are actually forced to accommodate you for free. So there's that.
If you've been working in the industry more than 5 years, you have compressed discs. So you can probably go get a doctor's note if you want.
Yeah, especially in Canada, it's like, it's free here. Just go to the doctor, get a referral.
Yeah,
pretty easy.
Have to do an X-ray on your spine.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I've seen more of them in the past few years than before. Before, you'd be lucky to get like a Herman Miller chair. When I worked in advertising, actually, we all had the best equipment, like the best chairs.
Oh yeah, advertising.
And then like some smaller companies, it was like just something not good. And
you're working at like Ogilvy or somebody. And
yeah, everyone's got the best chair.
Things, the fancy chairs. I know.
Yeah, that's the dream. Working advertising isn't so bad, especially if you're thinking of getting into the industry. A lot of people start there. I started there. You've worked in advertising. A lot of our mentors have. It's a great place to get experience and sit in some comfy chairs.
Yeah, sometimes they have really rough hours too, but a lot of times that's more for like the creative team.
Yeah.
So usually if you're like an effects artist for an advertiser, it's the projects are much shorter. So even if there is like crunch time, it's only for a couple of weeks and then you're done. Then you're waiting.
Yeah, or even like 1 or 2 days. Like sometimes it's like a matter of days. Like, oh, I worked late one night, or oh, I worked all through the weekend. Like one weekend.
Right.
Yeah,
because they're much shorter turnaround on stuff. If you like working on a bunch of different types of project, that can be a really good place to be. Plus, they definitely usually pay for their overtime, and they have usually super nice equipment and very nice desks and chairs and really nice food.
All of the above. Yeah, you didn't even have to work like overtime. I remember we would just get lunch all the time. It was nice. It was nice. The days.
Well, you have lunch all the time now too.
Yeah, I do. I have to make it though. Damn it. But it's not bad. I really can't complain. But yeah, no, advertising was good. I found that I'm trying to think of a time, but maybe it just didn't happen where I was, but it didn't feel forced either. Like, I guess it really depends on the company you're working for and the projects that you have, but oftentimes it was like, oh, this is like my thing to own and I need more time with it, so I'm going to spend longer. Or I worked with a lot of people who just never did OT and they're like, I work 8 hours because I don't get paid for anything else because I'm salaried, and so I'm never doing OT. I'm never staying late unless you like beg me, and it was like a once in a year sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where certain people like that would work late, and they just leave at like 5 every day on the dot.
I wouldn't recommend
so it really depends
to do that.
I
wouldn't recommend trying that when you first start out, though.
No. This was someone like very seasoned who was like, I am more productive in 6 to 8 hours in a day than some people are in 10 or 12. So it was like fair.
Yeah.
You do you, man.
And in some countries where that's not the culture, I have some friends working in South Africa. They all just leave. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And even if there's like crunch needs to happen, everyone's like, no.
Yeah, they're like,
get to it tomorrow.
Sorry, you didn't plan it well. Yeah.
Right.
It's not happening.
So, that is not the case in Canada or the US. I don't know as much about the Australia work climate, but
I've heard so. I think it depends on the company, but some of my friends who are from there say that the working conditions are much better. But again, I think it depends. Like, she works in advertising as well, so it can vary.
Another, since we're trying to make people aware and not get taken advantage of, another way that companies will do this is with day rates. So be very careful about day rates if you're working on short-term projects, and make sure you know like what's expected in a day.
Yeah.
And then figure out actually how much you're getting paid during that time. So and we were talking about this, I think you were gone, but I think as companies are getting into this work from home stuff, I think it's going to be more and more contract type thing. So if you're hiring people overseas, none of those laws are going to apply. So that's going to be very interesting how that works out. I could see less and less overtime happening, at least overtime pay happening, and it would just be straight contractor pay per hour. So you wouldn't make extra money. You would just make the same just for more hours. I can see it going that way with the work from home stuff. Or moving to a day rate thing. Day rate. So rush back, a day rate would be like, so instead of paying you $50 an hour, let's say, to make it easy. So if you worked 8 hours, that'd be $400. They'll just say, we're going to pay you $400 a day. But does that mean, that could mean 8 hours? That could also mean 16 hours. And you're still only going to make $400 for the day. So, that's why it's a rate for the day. And then some places have like week rates and stuff like that, depending on what the project is. But that's not uncommon, especially when freelancing, because that's a way for them to kind of cap their costs off. So
same with even just like a project rate, like a flat rate for a project. When, let's say, you're negotiating a new freelance gig with a client and they tell you what you need to make. I need to create 3 characters, modeled, textured, whatever. And they say, okay, we're going to give you $10,000. And you're like, okay, wow, that sounds like a good amount of money. I'm really happy with this. But then what if it takes you way longer to do? Then like you're eating into your own time. And so if it takes you longer than, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to do, you might end up actually making less than minimum wage if you spend more hours than what you're paid to do. So you have to really be careful and really try to estimate your time and figure out how long is this really going to take me? Because I know that number sounds attractive, But if, I have a lot more time and then I end up spending months on it, then that number all of a sudden doesn't seem as lucrative anymore. But it goes both ways. I talked to a student recently, actually, who picked up some freelance work, super exciting, and they're getting everything done faster than the time that's expected in what they're being paid for. So it's really exciting.
It's rare that happens.
Yeah.
It's extremely easy for the client, even if your work is good, if they change their mind, anything. So those kinds of projects, if it's project rate, definitely build in things to that. So like if it's project rate, you don't get unlimited revisions, things like that. So usually that can be put in the contract. Like you get to change just 3 times, you get 3 different versions. After that, you have to pay more. So definitely look into things like that when you're doing for project rates.
You can create different clauses and stuff.
Does the law of the country you're in apply? Not necessarily. So that depends how you're working. So if you are an employee of the company, then they most likely have to have stuff in the country that you're in to deal with that. And those laws would apply. But most of the time, at least for visual effects or gaming, they're not going to hire an employee in a different country. So you're probably just a contractor, which essentially makes you a vendor of the company. So you're just doing a specific thing for them. So if you're, when people get into this gets really dicey, because it doesn't matter what happens or what the law is. If you want to do something to them, you would have to sue them. So that's mainly what I tell people. Like, it doesn't matter if they do something wrong or if they don't even pay you. It comes down to what are you going to do about it? And there's not much you can do at the end of the day. Like, if they're in a different country, they can straight up not pay you. What are you going to do? Are you going to sue them? That's fine. You've got to find a lawyer in your country willing to sue another company in another country for the amount of money they didn't pay you, which I guarantee the lawyers are going to be more expensive than whatever that was. So the cost of trying to get that money is exponential. So really, at the end of the day, all you can do is complain online on social media about it. Unless it's some huge thing where like tons of people didn't get paid, and that's where you see these like big class action lawsuits that go through. But even then, the workers don't actually get much of the money even after those are done. So
or it takes years and years and years, and then by that point you're like,
so it's the best protection everybody has for workers is just to talk about companies that are doing this and companies that are good. And then only, work for companies that are upstanding and, pay their workers and treat them reasonably.
Yeah. So important to do research about that so you know what you're getting into, at least at a basic level. However, I find that a lot of companies, when you see reviews, so many of them are negative because a lot of people who have a positive experience don't really feel the urge to write a review. Yeah. Like similar to restaurants and stuff like that.
But there's difference, I feel like, between a negative review and then this company stole from me.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
I worked for them for a month and they never paid me.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag. Like I think it's pretty common to see like Glassdoor reviews. That's a website where you can review different companies or look up reviews for companies if you're interested in working at one of them. And I find that a lot of the negative ones generally are pretty similar, and they have to do with, management could be better, management could communicate better. And then you're like, okay, and not to say that that's a good thing, but you see a lot of that and nothing else. And you're like, okay. But then when you start to see stuff like what Jeremy said, like, oh, they haven't paid me for weeks. Like, okay, hold on a second. That's a big deal. That is something that you should really, not take lightly when it comes down to payment, because you never want to be in a situation where you've been working and then you don't get paid for the work that you do.
I think
that's a big one.
Me personally, I think this is just going to get more and more important as everything gets more global, because everybody's going to be working from different countries, hiring people in different countries, working around the world. So it'll be, and people won't be in large groups, right? It'll just be one-off contractors, like lots of one-off contractors. But the good news is that in general, companies, especially larger ones, have a big incentive to do well by people, in that as it becomes more global, they need to attract the best talent globally. So to do that, they need to come across and be known as a place that treats people well, pays on time, doesn't go over, because otherwise that'll get around, and then they're not, these bigger places, they need lots of people, and they need to be able to get them quickly, and they need them to be reliable. So they have to do that in return to make sure that's going to keep going. The ones that you, in general, and that's not to say big companies have never done this, because they certainly have, but in general, the smaller ones are the ones you need to do a bit more research on and look out for, especially when you're first starting out. Because they typically don't have all their stuff together quite as much, especially ones that the owners are artists themselves, and might not be as up on all the business stuff and don't have everything together. And then they can easily disappear because it's small if something happens or goes awry. So to me, that's where you need to do a little more research and be a little more careful, and don't work for months and months without getting paid. Make sure you have, if you're doing freelance project work, make sure you have milestones, you're getting paid kind of as you're progressing through things, so they can't just disappear once you turn in those final files.
Yeah, or don't even send them final files until you've gotten payment. That's another good rule. That's something we'll be talking about in my class as well. I think that's next week, or it might be the week after.
That can be tricky to get a lot of clients to agree to. So I've worked for some big companies that they just can't do that because they need it, and then it has to go through your payment has to go through their accounting department, which could take 30 to 60 days. But like Disney's going to pay you, so it wasn't a big issue. But some of these smaller places might not. So, but at least you should have some milestones where, like, I've been paid for at least half of it. So worst case, they do try to pull something at the end, you've at least gotten a fair chunk of the money.
Yeah, for some of your time.
Max, asking your class.
So I teach a class called Career and Portfolio Development, or Portfolio and Career Development. Yeah, sorry. Switched backwards. And it's a drop-in class that I teach here at CG Spectrum. It's open to all CG Spectrum students, no matter what course or level you're at. If you're just starting last week, or if you're an alumni and you graduated, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, in some cases, anyone can join as long as you're a CG Spectrum student. And we just go over a lot of the stuff like we're talking about today. So we talk about getting a job in the industry, different career paths that you might take depending on your skills and your interests, or even where you live in the world. That can be a huge factor, especially for more remote countries and cities. We talk about resumes and cover letters. We talk about social media. You probably do need this read, or at least it's interesting. Luckily, I have recorded all of them. So for those of you who are just finding out about this now, that's okay. There are recordings of all the classes I've had so far. I believe I've only taught, I want to say 5, maybe six classes now. So you haven't missed much.
Talk about your channel, because not everybody's in your channel.
My channel. That is how to get in. So there is a channel. Can I type it here?
If you're on Slack, there is a channel called Career Dev Class. So if you're in Slack,
that's
just
what you search there.
Yep. just go into channels and search for that, and that's where all the times get listed, and then the links to the previous recordings and everything are.
Yeah, and also just different conversations and topics about things that come up throughout the week. So that channel is a great place to ask questions if you have a question about something. If you see a good job opportunity you want to share. I know we have some specific job channels, but this is a good place to kind of maybe discuss some of the jobs that are there. I post about different internship opportunities in there as well. Yeah, it's a fun place to be. I was planning to just add everyone, so every new student got automatically added, but I thought that was too much. Some people don't want it, whatever it is. This is a voluntary course, so it's up to you to drop in. I teach 2 classes a week, so Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's just to get different time zones, but the class is exactly the same on Tuesday or on Thursday, aside from any questions that come up in the class. So sometimes people ask questions live, and so that makes it slightly different between Tuesday and Thursday. But yeah, that's what it's all about. So it's great. Drop in if you're interested. And if you don't have time, or if the live class timing doesn't work for you, then everything's recorded, just like everything else at CG Spectrum, which is amazing. So you can always check it out later.
Awesome, Rushback. What course are you taking?
It's so exciting.
I know.
We have quite a few enrollments already for modeling. Yeah.
All right, you'll get the new course.
Nice.
Enjoy.
Are you going to be doing intro to modeling? Do you teach that one, Jeremy?
I do not.
You don't.
I haven't taught.
But you used to.
Teaching. I did.
Right.
I stopped in February, I think.
Right on.
My last one, February, March. Yeah, I taught for 5 years.
Right on. Reed's taking VFX compositing. Amazing. That's such a good course.
Nice.
You have some awesome mentors in that course.
He just finished, right? He just finished.
Oh yeah, sorry. Right, you're right. He just finished. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll do interest since I don't have a portfolio. That's great. This is the place to start, Max. So I don't think you have access to the channels yet if you're starting in November, so you probably don't have access to Slack yet.
We'll start doing that on the 25th. Yeah,
it's usually like a few days before the first class, right?
Yeah, and then everything will start getting organized that last week in November, and then you'll probably get invited into Slack towards the end of that week, so 28th, 29th. So yeah, as soon as you're in there, swing by and say hi, introduce yourself, and yeah, you will have to add yourself to Maxine's channel once you get in there.
Mm-hmm. But, or you can just find me and send me a direct message, and I can help you out. So that's fine too. But it's so exciting, isn't it? So exciting, like the first of the month, or like the first Monday of the month when we have all these new enrollments.
Yep, it's exciting
pretty
to see
cool.
Everybody getting more involved in the community too. I think it's really come alive. So definitely take part, Rushback. I think one thing that's hard online is the networking aspect of it, and I think even in a community like that, like we have a lot going on, but I would still, if you can, like really look for just a few people that you can resonate with to try to get to know a bit more, because these people are going to have jobs around the world, and they can really help you out. And when everybody gets jobs, they can be like, hey, we're looking for people, and just building out your network that way can really help you out down the line. As I've mentioned, I think on previous streams, almost all of my jobs were through other people that I knew. It's very rare that I would get something cold calling a place. It's just there's so many resumes to get through. So I definitely recommend doing that, and I know why it's more difficult in something like this. We are trying to provide as much of that as we can, but you definitely will have to take advantage of it and use everything that's there. Sorry, Rushback. Yeah, I have not taught for a while, but we have actually some much better modelers than I teaching many of the classes, so you're probably gonna have an amazing teacher.
But Jeremy's online all the time too. Like he's checking out people's work. That's the best thing I think about the school that I've noticed so far is how, like, yes, you get your own mentor for your class, but then if you're, working on something, even if it's not a school project, it's something personal and you post it in the Slack channels, other people are going to comment on it. Sometimes other mentors, even if they're not your teacher, they'll still, review your work or give you some suggestions. So it's, I would say my number one sort of suggestion for any new students who are starting or just started, or even the ones that finished, to be honest, if you haven't been active in the Slack channels yet, I highly, highly recommend that you start, or when you do join, you do it once you join, because it's such a great resource for networking. It's such a good, hi, Mattia. It's such a great way to meet people and get a little more comfortable with showcasing your work in a slightly public forum that isn't, broadcast to the internet. So it's a little bit safer than posting on ArtStation or on social media or whatever.
Well, and everybody has your best interest in mind.
It's a nice little bubble.
Yeah, it's a nice little, we all want you to succeed. And all the other students want each other to succeed too. And one thing, Rushback, I will say to take advantage of too, is this something new we just started doing called open sessions. So we have now mentors will run free sessions that are open to everyone in the course. So, with your mentor, you're only going to get one session a week, one live session a week. But now we're starting to run these new ones where everyone can join in for extra sessions, essentially. And then since you're in modeling, you're also going to have, we do have a modeling live stream. Currently, it is Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern, but it's going to be moving to Wednesdays. I believe it's 7 a.m. Eastern. We're going to post that up. And then I think that'll be like 9 p.m. in Australia, sometime around there. So, so you can actually jump into the stream and ask questions and look at new techniques and stuff too.
We have a couple of comments. Read, I agree. I've received great feedback on some of my pieces. Doesn't that feel good when you get feedback or even constructive feedback where people say, hey, maybe fix this, this, and this. And then you see it and you're like, oh yeah, actually it does look better when I fixed this, this, and this. And so you can really grow as an artist that much quicker because you have that feedback. But then we also have someone else, Natui, sorry if I say that wrong, the Destroyer. I get pretty nervous about posting because nothing I make is really ever as polished as most people's stuff. I think that is the most common feeling amongst not just our students here, but just artists in general. I think nowadays with social media and the internet, it is so easy to find beautiful art everywhere. You're surrounded by it, especially if you go looking on purpose. So it's really easy to feel like yours isn't good enough. But with the CG Spectrum community here, you're dealing with a group of people that are all in the same boat as you. Yes, some people may be at different stages in their learning path. Some of them may be alumni, some of them have graduated, but everyone has been where you are at some point in time. Everyone has started out not being as good as they hope to be one day. So I hope that you get over that hump of feeling insecure and nervous about posting, and post anyway. Post some work in progress. Don't wait until you think it's finished. Show people what you're doing along the way. I think that's really important, and it's a skill to sort of hone in on. We're not just doing this for fun because it's fun to chat to people. It's also a way to train you to, work in a way that is more similar to working at a studio. Because when you're at a studio, you don't just do something once and then hand it in and then it's done. Usually you have checkpoints and you have to show people, your senior, your lead, your manager, a supervisor, show them what you're working on at every stage of the way, multiple times a week. and then they give you notes, and then you keep working on it and working on it and working on it. So it's much more of this creative process and not so much like here's a task, finish it. So the earlier that you kind of get into that mindset of sharing more often, whatever stage you're at, even if you think it looks like crap, share it and say, hey, I think this looks like crap. I think I need to fix this, this, and this. What do you think? Or I see a lot of students ask, hey, someone posted a really interesting post, I think it was this morning or yesterday, about a sort of scene they created, I think in Unreal. And they're asking, how could I make the composition of this scene better, even though it was in a game engine and not just a digital illustration? And they asked that in the Digipaint channel, and I thought that was really cool. And some of the Digipaint artists actually gave some really great feedback on how this person could maybe construct the scene differently to look a little more pleasing.
I would recommend doing, I think what he did was a good point too, where he asked a specific question. Because if you just say, hey, what do you guys think? You're just going to get like thumbs up emojis. Yeah. So when you post something, if you can ask like specifically what you're looking for feedback on, that will help tremendously to get responses. Yeah. And Natui, I think one thing we did with so for our open sessions, we created open session channels. And those channels are actually automatically set to only have the students that are in your class. So if you're in the intro to modeling class, you have all the intro to modeling students will be in that channel, but it's not everybody at the whole school. So as you'll see in the general channel, I think we have 1,600 people now.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot. But if you look at the modeling intro channel, there's only 123. So it's a much smaller space to start posting stuff in. So if you want a way to kind of slowly get more comfortable, that's something I would recommend. You could post in your class channel to start, and then maybe move to the open channel. And then as you get more feedback there and you feel like something's a bit more polished, then you can move it over to the general channel for everybody. Mm-hmm.
And it's nice that we have like open channels for people that are in the intro versus the ones that are in advanced. So you know that it's even more of a safe space if you're an intro student. If you're nervous about people that are really good seeing your work. Yes, there's a lot of really good people, but
well, you're all in the same position in that channel. Like at most, the person at the top is like 6 months ahead of you. So that can also show you
someone self-trained
where
or
you
something.
Can get to in 6 months. So
yeah, I've seen some really cool before and after work of some students lately. Someone posted, I think it was in the Digipaint channel.
Yeah, Gonzo's been posting some.
Yeah, Gonzo, of where he was with the character in February of this year versus now. It's just incredible to see how much some of these artists are improving over time, especially when it feels like you're not changing. I think oftentimes when you're stuck in what you're doing at the moment or what you're doing that week or that day, it might feel like you're not getting anywhere because you're just looking at the same thing over and over again. But if you were to pull up something, a project you start at the beginning of your term here at CG Spectrum versus at the end, like, wow, the difference is usually quite big, and it's really inspiring, especially to the new students and stuff.
Yeah, it could be something fun for you, Rushback, when you start modeling. Like, keep your first weapon that you model, and then when you sculpt the dragon at the end, and then you can show yourself kind of how far that you've come between those two. Would be neat to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love seeing that. That's like always makes me smile when I like wake up in the morning and I check the channel, see what's going on, and I see some people posting about some of their improvements or people who, they had a project they started a few months ago, and now that they've graduated or now that they have a break or whatever, they decided to go back and improve an old project that they did before that they thought was finished. That's always awesome to see, you know, now with your new skills and new ideas and like fresh eyes, how much better you can make some old projects. You know, when you thought that you couldn't put one more minute into something, you know, you wait a few months or a few weeks and then you look back at it again and all of a sudden the wheels start turning again. So that's so exciting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, because if you work on a project for, because for you, Rushback, some of our modeling projects start to get fairly long. So especially in the advanced courses. So if you work on a project for 3 months, for instance, which would be a whole term, at the end of those 3 months, you're actually 3 months better than you were when you started this project. Plus, you have all the skills now that we wanted to teach you during the project. So while you're in school, you're probably never going to love any of the projects, because when you finish the project, you're just better than when you started. So if you did it again, of course it would be better because you're that much more experienced. So
yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum, but it's a good one.
That's why I really encourage people to just get it out there, because you're never going to love it because of that reason. Because you're like, well, I can always be better. Well, yes, because you're now a better artist. So of course, if you did it again, it would be better the next time around. So the goal is to just get better with each project. And some of the things that, and I'm mainly speaking about the modeling course just because I know Rushback's doing that, and that's what I taught. But we are also trying to get you ready for working in a studio as well. So we start having these longer projects because that's what you'll end up doing. I've worked on characters. I worked on one character for 9 months one time. So being able to build up that kind of resilience to work through something and realize, hey, I could make this better, and then actually go back and do it is an important skill to kind of foster as well.
Yeah.
So we try to build that into the courses as you're moving along.
Yeah, I think just there's so many different factors between how the courses are built, especially with these new courses. I think Jeremy's camera is frozen. Actually, I was looking at it and I couldn't tell.
Too. I know.
It did do it last week, right?
Yeah, at least we made it almost to the end this time.
Well, it's almost time anyway, but yep. At least it's like an okay pose. You know, it's not like, you know.
Yeah, last time it was frozen for like an hour and a half.
Like the whole stream, yeah. It happened right at the beginning. I remember watching.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I don't know. I updated my OBS, which is what does this, and now it started happening. So, wondering if got something a little off with the new version.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what I love about the school here. Since I started, you're just too cool, Jeremy. Yeah, he like fries the computer.
Time.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's so cool to see. I think, you know, we're constantly developing better ways of teaching the content. All of the mentors talk together, management talks. We try to figure out, okay, if something isn't working, how should we fix it? It's very fluid, and it's always with this idea of preparing you for your next big step. So even things that seem just like basic, like the chats, it can be much more than that if you allow it to be. We have a question here from Max. Also, can you do two courses at the same time? I believe you can, but it's difficult. You know, you have to find the time.
Yeah.
We don't recommend it.
Yes, you can do them at the same time. We recommend you put in 20 hours a week into a single course, though. So I would not recommend 2 courses at the same time unless you are doing this full time. So you don't need to work and you don't have any other schooling.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and you're like financially stable.
Yeah. Otherwise, it will be overwhelming. And then, depending on what courses you were looking at, I would definitely talk to someone, because there's also an advantage to spending 40 hours on one class, especially if we're talking about modeling. So because modeling is there's things you need to understand, but it's, as a lot of these are, they're practice skills. So
Yep.
the more you practice, the better you get. So we say 20 hours because that's what you need to make it through the course successfully. But I have had students, one of them joins in here quite frequently. I don't know if John's in here right now, but he did ramp it up to 40 hours and more per week. And your quality just skyrocketed. You get better so much faster just because you're practicing that much more. So if you do have that opportunity, unless there's a real reason you're wanting to take 2 different courses, I can also recommend just spending that much more time on a single course just to get that much better at it.
Or take one and then take the other one after you graduate the first one.
Yeah.
You could do that. But yeah, I agree with Jeremy. Like, you can really tell the students that, it's not just doing those weekly assignments. It's about, okay, now I've learned this skill. How can I apply this technique or skill that I've used on something else? And then they do something else in the same week or the following week based on what they learned before. So it kind of goes into what we were talking about before about, becoming a better artist and seeing your skills improve. You can see that in real time, like after you kind of dedicate your time to the course material. And if you want to spend more time, another 5 hours, like, oh, well, maybe I'll make my own character then, or do something a little bit different. And that's when you see a lot of the students really shine, is when they're doing something above and beyond the actual assignment. And then they take it into something else. Like they do a challenge, like that guy Johnny you're talking about, he did the rookies challenge. And yeah, I think you really have to put your all into it. You have to remember that a lot of artists in the industry who work on their craft, whatever field they're in, they're doing that for at least 8 hours a day, if not more, like we said, because of crunch time and, all of the different working conditions at these studios. So they're already spending minimum 40 hours a week on their work. And then a lot of them, if they want to move up in their job, or do something else, they end up doing more outside of work, or they start to do little personal projects when they can. Of course, it's not always possible.
I did that for a few years after I graduated and after I got my first job. I did personal projects almost every night for a couple of years. And then once I got into the film industry, the job that I wanted, then I started staying late and teaching myself how to program because I wanted to be able to write tool sets to improve my work even more, and that's what helped me move up quite a bit faster. So I was eventually able to stop doing that and have a life, but it definitely it takes a lot of practice. And when you're watching people, especially on these live streams and stuff like that we do, one of the comments we get, especially with modeling, is they're so fast, like it happens so fast. And it does that because we've done it tens of thousands of times. Like if I've made the the marking menu mouse movements probably like 100,000 times. So I don't have to think about doing it. Like my hands just know what to do and they just do it really fast. So but when you're first starting out, you don't have that, so everything's very clunky and much slower. And but just doing it over and over and over and over, that's how you're going to get faster at it. And there's no way around it. Like you can't be smarter and get it. You can't have a faster computer and get it. You can't just be more talented, even, honestly. You just have to do it more than the other person.
Talent will get you like so far. There are some people that do seem to pick things up a little bit faster than others. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool, you're at this level, you still have to keep working harder to get up here. And other people will catch up to you if you're slacking, or if you think that you're better than everyone else, or people that get comfortable, especially when they work in the industry already. A lot of people end up kind of staying at the same level for years, if not their entire career, because they think that they're done learning. And those are the kind of people that you don't really see moving up into different roles, moving into supervisor roles or whatever it is, because they don't care to learn something else. So even once you're done here, you're going to keep learning.
Rushback, that's what I did. So I did modeling and Python, and I learned to write modeling tools in Python for Maya. And that definitely gave me a big edge over other modelers when it comes down to who they're going to keep after the show's over. They do like to keep the people that are writing tools for them.
People that are more useful for the bigger picture. And you can plan, like if something didn't go well in the last project you worked on because of some repetitive something or some tool that didn't work, then they're going to need someone like Jeremy or like you, Max, who knows how to create different tools, streamline things to make it better for the next project that comes up after that.
Well,
I think it's fantastic.
I think a mistake a lot of people make is they're like, oh, these big companies are going to have people that do this and I'm not, what can I contribute? And that is actually not the case. It's almost the opposite. So I've found like the bigger the company is, it's like the older the software that you're working on is typically, the less specific departmental tools that they'll have, because yes, they do have programmers, but they're working for everybody on everything. So, and they're not really worried about like your particular repetitive problem that you have going on. So if you're able to solve some of those problems on your own, it's a big help for you and like your kind of immediate group that you may not realize, but that opportunity will definitely come up more than you think.
Absolutely.
So you did the intro course for concept art. What's next to that course to get a diploma? So if you did the intro course, the diploma has changed a little bit. So definitely contact Elena and talk to her. That will be hello. And she can help you out with that. To move on from that, for the advanced courses, you'll be an advanced concept art course, and then there's the advanced illustration track that you could also look into. But if you've already taken the course with us and you have Elena's direct email, you can just email her directly. She'll be happy to get you any information you need for the diploma. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. It's probably about time to wrap up.
Yeah, that was a great stream.
Yeah, did anybody have any other quick questions before we run off?
Oh, last question. Got a big one.
Is the for a concept artist to learn 3D modeling? Yes, a little bit. You do not have to be a production modeler, but I would recommend at least learning the language a little bit and maybe some basics. A lot of concept artists like to use ZBrush and Blender. You can get free versions of both of those now, so you can pick that up. We have one of our, if you're in the concept art class now, one of our mentors, Mike Thompson, will be in those channels, and he uses ZBrush quite a bit for his concept art. So definitely hit him up and ask him about that a bit. And then I have a lot of other concept art friends that are really big into Blender for blocking out like environmental stuff, getting basic lighting in there.
Yeah, I think nowadays there's a lot of these in-between artists as well who, like there's a traditional concept artist who just deal in, a lot more of that 2D space, but then like he said as well, like they're making stuff for the modelers. So that's true. I know of some people who kind of do a little bit of both. So they are modelers at their core, but they are more on the creative side, and they can like take very basic 2D concepts and then start, upgrading the concept as a model to send to the client as a more sort of.
And as the concept artist, you'd be probably
further
opposite of that, where you would do a very basic.
What was that?
If he's as a concept artist, they almost do the inverse of that, where they'll do a very basic model and then paint on top of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it would help you if that's something you're interested in, and if it's something that you enjoy doing. I think it would only benefit you to know some modeling in addition to the concept art.
That's definitely a good skill.
Absolutely. I'm about to pass out.
We'll let Rushback get to bed.
See you later, Max. Nice to meet you.
Yep. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week, and be sure to check out the other streams to
I got a full week of streams. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks again.
See you later.